without hustling. Hi. And we are live.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
amazing. Welcome back to this week's live. And we have a specific topic today, and we are talking about how close you can go to boundaries, to your neighbors or to public areas. And let me have a quick look, because obviously I have my notes here that I can a little bit peek. But is there actually a line, or is there a rule? And if there's a rule, and I guess there's one, what is it when it comes to boundaries to the neighbors or to public areas?
Yes. Again, it depends on the project and the location of the site, and if it's on a corner plot, if it's a semi-detached house or a detached house, approximately from the boundary, and so all lots of factors comes in place. Okay, but if we talk about a typical semi-detached house who's got a garage on the side and got a side alleyway, and garage is quite thin, but you cannot put a modern car in there, so people use it for storage. Okay, so they would like to convert, and they would like to pinch a little bit more space on the side, on the boundary. Okay, under the permitted development, they're allowed to demolish their, or allowed to get rid of their side alleyway and extend all the way down to the boundary. Yeah, but it cannot be more than half of the width of the original house. If your original house is 6 meter wide, okay, your side extension cannot be more than that. Okay, it needs to be
Then 3 meters.
it needs
Then,
to be 3 meters, and if
yeah.
that 3 meters touches the boundary, okay, that's fine as well. Yeah,
Okay.
but it changes if you're looking to do that as a two-story extension. Yeah,
Okay.
so the some councils, okay, they ask for the first story to be 1 meter setback from the boundary to stop the terracing effect. And what is a terracing effect? Terracing effect is if you do the two-story side extension, your neighbors does a two-story extension, and everybody on the street does a two-story side extension, is going to look like a terraced housing. So the council do not want to see that. Yeah.
Yes,
So when
obviously.
you're looking and standing on the street and looking at the view, okay, they say they want on the ground floor it's fine, but on the first floor they don't want to see that, so they want you to set it back. Some council don't are not that strict. Like St. Helens still allows you to build it on the boundary on the second story, but what they do, or what they do is they ask you the first story needs to be set back quite a bit to stop having that effect. So
Okay.
different councils have some different rules, different policies to tackle that.
Okay.
But on the ground floor, you can go all the way down to the side under the permitted development. Okay, all the way down to it. I hope that
Okay.
answers.
Yeah, this answers questions. I'm just like when I'm looking strange, I just like have my own house in mind and have the idea basically how
Yeah.
it would look like if you put this if you make this extension, and how it would look like based on your description, and
Hmm.
if that would fit to our house as well. So this is basically I have another movie in my head going on. If you make these explanations, I think, okay, what I can do for my house.
Yeah. If you want to talk about it, just go to the website, book a call directly with me, and you can have a chat.
Amazing. Okay, thank you. I will do that. That's a great point. But how dangerous can be the neighbors if you plan something like that? So can your neighbors cross your plans because it's too close for them, or what?
Yes, they can. No, they can't cross your plan. Again, it still needs to satisfy all the planning policies and so and so. If the planning policy says you cannot do two-story side extension all the way down to the boundary, and you still apply for it and get, that will be rejected. So you're just wasting your money. So speak to professional, get the plans drawn, as I always say, and follow the proper channel. Don't just rely on the builders tells you, oh, because I've done it on that street or I've done it on other council, so the rules apply the same. No, it doesn't. And we get it all the time. The builder comes to me saying, I've done a project over there. I'm like, yeah, but that's a different council, different regulation, not different policies, so you can't apply that. Why not? I'm trying to explain to them, it's like, no, you cannot. The policy says this. If you want to do that, you have to apply for a planning permission. And if you get granted, then go ahead and do it. So what I have just said is about on the boundary, but sometimes what happens, and we've done a project a couple of years back, where the first story needed to be 1 meter setback from the policy. But when we actually look at the site, the next door neighbor actually had about 60-meter side garden, absolutely huge. So that person is never going to be doing a 60-meter side extension and is going to look like a terrace effect.
Yeah.
So even the planning policy says that. So we were able to demonstrate that to the council. Look, because we're going to be building it all the way down to the boundary, it's not going to change anything. And they looked at it, they were like, yeah, it makes sense. So they did approve it. So again, site conditions, do vary. So, but you cannot take that principle saying, oh, you did the project in Warrington. That was a 2-story on the boundary. Why can't I do it? You can't do it because your neighbors are too close. Coming back to your question in terms is that, if you're putting a planning application, it goes to all your neighbors and they will have a say on it. If what they are saying is really going to affect, if they are literally living next door and it's going to stop the daylight coming in there and it's not comply with the policy, yes, application will be rejected. Yeah. But it's not that anybody can comment on it and your application got rejected. It's not like that. We do applications, lots of people comment on it, but as long as you have done the job or you have applied all the planning policies on the project and things, it's fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and this is there any differences when it comes to the public areas as well? Are there special rules when it's when the neighbor is a public area? Does a public area, public street or pavement?
Highways? Yeah. So if it's a corner plot, okay, again, so the side extension on the corner plot, even you're allowed to do a side extension all the way down to the boundary. There is a rule or there is a policy where if you draw a line from where you actually turn, a line from that side, or where the front elevation of the other properties at the back, okay, it cannot exceed those. Again, everything needs to be looking into their own scale, but it cannot cross that. Yeah. So we've done the projects where we literally have to provide the side alleyway, okay, because even in the permitted development, it doesn't allow you. But if you put a planning application, yes, you can. Yeah. Council looks at it and say, is that so highways get involved in? And the whole point is when imagine you're driving a car, somebody's built right where almost the boundary, and now you cannot see who's coming from the other side. So that can be a collision there. So just to making sure that street is clear for the public, people crossing the road and so on. So all of the highways get involved in on that.
Okay, amazing. And would you say it makes sense, especially when it comes back to the private neighbors? Do you think it makes sense to go around the neighbors and present what you have to do or what you want to do before they get a letter from the council?
Yeah. So if what we have done, okay, and we do this a lot of time when we're doing the drawings, and I know what we're looking to do is your neighbor might not be happy, okay, or what we're doing is slightly of what the policy says. But if your neighbor complains about it, or neighbor objects about your drawing, council will take that in account, okay, and it's a negative point on the application. So what I say to the client is saying, get the drawings done, take a copy, go with a box of chocolate to them, say, look, this is what we're looking to do. Okay, would you have any problem? So they know what you're looking at. And if there is any concern, they can tell you at that time. They might not tell you at that time right away. When you put the application, they might, formally do that. But 9 out of 10, they will explain you saying, I'm not sure about this. And then an honest discussion can be happen with them saying, if we do this, can we compromise on this? And they go like, yeah, that should be okay. And then you play that accordingly. So if you need to change the layout, we'll do that much hand before.
Are you part of this conversation with the neighbors usually? Because obviously when they say they're not happy with the plans that are done, and you need some compromises, what can be done. And since you know exactly what people want to do and how they want to live in their houses and why they do these extensions, does your service include being part of this kind of conversations?
Yes, it does. Okay, but to be honest, I never needed to go to a meeting with the neighbor with the plans for my client. I never had to do that. I'll just go to the client and say, look, go and share it with them, and they go, and most of the time they have done their discussion, and they come back to me and say, oh, they were so lovely, they were absolutely fine with it. Let's get on. I'm like, okay, yeah, and to be honest, in one of them it did happen. They gone and come back and says they were like, no, they're not happy. Yeah, so I said, okay, if that's the case, we need to do X, Y, and Z. And they said, if this is the case, then we won't even go. So this is a very, very preliminary stage when they were looking. That was it was not a mid-terrace. It was a semi-detached, quite a Victorian property, but they wanted to go up to 6 meters at the back, which needed something which is called as a prior approval, not permitted development. Is something between permitted development and planning application, which is only your neighbors can have a say.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's called a prior approval, and you can do an extension up to 6 meters on a semi-detached and 8 meters on a detached. So if the council says, if your neighbor says, I'm not happy, you just cannot do it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that project, I just showed what they wanted. I said, look, you need to go up to 6 meters. There's no way we can design something within 3 meters, what your requirements are. And I said, first thing is go and speak to your neighbor. Okay. I don't even need to do a drawing. You just explain them it's going to go up to that. And they come back to me and says, no, they're not happy. Yeah.
Is it basically both neighbors? Sorry to interrupt. Is it both neighbors? So if you have a semi-detached house, you ask the one and the other neighbor? Yeah.
Yes, you ask both of them. But it mostly, the other one, it will affect one of them quite badly. Okay. Other one, it will not that much, but they will actually have a say on it as well. So the answer for this question is all the boundaries all the neighbors touching your boundary needs to be notified.
Okay.
Or will have a say on it.
Yeah.
Somebody lives next to them. If you're doing a planning application, they can still have a say on it. But if you're doing a prior approval for a large extension, no, they don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even in the back, basically, if you have garden to garden, the other side has to have. Okay. Even if they don't see anything in our.
Even if they don't see anything, absolutely.
Okay.
But what we have done on these kind of project, I asked the neighbors, saying, look, go and have a chat with your neighbor. If they want to do something similar, you can put those plans together. Yeah. If they don't want to do the work now, they can do the work in few years down the line. It's fine. Yeah. So that's been done. So we have done those sort of project where two neighbors put the application together and we saying we're going 6 meters and that's how it's going to look.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, it's really difficult. I know every time when we talk about it, it's always like I compare the German and the German rules. It's like it's really relaxed here because I remember when I was pregnant, basically just hours before I gave birth, I had to hire somebody to do a report because of how the sun and the shadow affects the neighbor from. And it was not really, I can't really remember what exactly it was, but it was nonsense, really. It was really a nonsense part. And we had to hire somebody to make a full report to give each hour of the day how the sun is moving and when how the shadow is being on this ground of the neighbors. It was, I have no idea how to call it in English, unfortunately.
It's called sunlight daylight assessment. So we have done those because we've done this on a project in doing a large, I think it was an extension to a care home we were doing. And so we had a care home and the person at the back was a residential property and he was worried about the sunlight affecting. But the orientation was because his garden was the south facing garden. So it says the shadows will be actually coming into our garden, not that. But we did a series of drawings over the 12 months, every month, timings and so and so, and showing the shadow will actually not even cast in their garden whatsoever. Yeah, but
So
it just
there are
needs
these
to be
kind of
done.
neighbors here as well. It's not only Germany.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, but
Okay.
sometimes it does. Okay,
Yeah.
so sometimes it does. So we can demonstrate that what is the current scenario now. We are not making it worst. Yeah,
Okay.
something is existing. You can't change it. So
Yes.
people feel like, oh, if he's going to extend, it's going to stop more light coming through. No, it won't, because if you just look at a sun study and how the sun orientation is, okay, no, it's not going to affect you. And if you can demonstrate that, even the person has objected to an application and you can provide that evidence to the council, it's fine.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Let me have a look in my thing, but um, do you help as well with balancing, maximizing space while staying compliant with boundary and planning rules? Like I
Repeat that
think
again.
that's what you said in the beginning, to balancing the maximizing space, and as well the being in line with the rules of the boundary and planning part.
Yes,
So
maximizing the space.
this
Yeah.
is basically what we talked about, right, with the neighbors as well.
Yes. So if you remember that, we talked about if your neighbor wants to have a similar extension in the future. Okay. So look, by rules, what we usually say, if the boundary line is right in the middle there, you don't want to be doing any construction work in your neighbors. So a typical width of a footing is about 600 millimeter, which is 2 feet wide. That needs to land right in the middle where your wall will be. So that means by the time your cavity wall comes in, you're going to be left with 150 millimeters of a gap from your boundary to your brickwork. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If your neighbor wants to do the same thing in the future, he's going to do the same thing. So literally, you're going to have a 1 foot gap left between two extension, which nobody can maintain. Okay.
Yes.
Good house for spiders, something you can never maintain. It's going to get blocked and whatever. So what we say to the client is, speak to neighbors if they ever want to do this work as well. So under the Party Wall Act, what they can do is they can actually have a written agreement. You can actually build that white wall right on the boundary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what that allows you to do is to build right on the boundary. So the central line will be right in the middle. Cavity wall is shared, as is typically shared in a semi-detached house. Okay. But advantage is actually to your neighbor is when they actually do that work, they do not have to spend a penny doing that side wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that construction is going to be much cheaper because the foundation of that, if it's a 6 meter extension, what they're having, it's already done. Foundation is already done. Everything. You just need to come and back wall just need to come and butt against it. That's it. So that's a great way of saving for that. Yeah, it maximizes. It actually gives about 300%, 750 millimeters more into both the properties.
Okay. Another question that happens a lot in Germany, I'm not so sure if this happens here, but maybe you can help me out with that, is let's say the builder did a mistake and didn't follow exactly the millimeters on the plan and took a little bit more space than it was allowed. Or like you have maybe 10 centimeters or 15 centimeters over the line. Do you have to to destroy it? Like, if you don't know it, it's okay. Maybe you don't have these cases here, but I know cases in Germany. You have basically, as an owner, you have to destroy it and build it back. There are some rules as well, but some of them have basically to.
Touch wood, I have. This has never happened in any of my project where we have done
Good.
the drawing. It, builder have changed the drawings to suit what they thought is that they can do value engineering and make the project cheaper. Okay, they have done that. Okay, which I'm not a good fan of. But if you speak to the client and then go through me and everything, is good. But on a party wall side where they extended a little bit more, and so that has never happened to my project. but I've seen on lots of other projects where it has happened. An example I can give you: working on a project in Birchwood, where client got the drawings done, got it approved, builder came in, and it was on a highway side and had about a 2 meter of a side garden, which is nothing. And he suggested to the client saying, "Oh, you have a side garden, 2 meters, nothing there. Why don't you extend it? It's in the permitted development." And client gone like, "Oh, can I?" I said, "Yeah, you can." And he's done it. So now they're looking to extend over the garage at the side and so on and so. When I came in, I'm like, I said, "I've actually seen your drawing where you applied for. That's not there. What did you do?" And he said, "Oh, Bill just suggested me to do this. We gone ahead and done it." I'm like, "But you don't have planning permission for it. And you will never get planning permission for that." So like, "But he suggested it should be fine." I'm like, "Oh my God, why did you listen to him?" So somebody's enjoying an extension at the moment. Okay. But council's not gone and check it and things. And yeah, if nobody sees it and thinks, you can't get away with it. But if somebody
But
does complain,
in this case, you should not ask for another permission, right? Because like what do you do in this situation? So you just keep it the way it is.
To be honest, when you look at that, yeah. So that is one of those things, because it's touching the highway. It's on a cul-de-sac. It's on the end. That is not, again, it is against the current policies. But if you look at it, nobody can see it from outside, because all the hedges are quite high and so on. And so the reason nobody's seen it, because it's all hidden. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you do, you put once you put a new application in, you say, "Look, we've done that changes on the last application. Can you regularize this bit as well?" And we're hoping they do. But
it's not a really good strategy, but it's
not. But it's built. It's one of those things, and I've flagged it to the client saying, "Look, when we put your new application in, okay, this is a big red flag there. If the council find out saying you've done something which was not supposed to, I don't know how they're going to take it. Will they force you to take it down, or will they say that, because they will come to the site again and have a look, do their appraisal, and they might just say, you know what, it's not affecting anybody, so it should be fine." Yeah. But sometimes I've seen it's like, what have you done? Doesn't have a planning for it, and it does come back and bite you quite hard. Yeah.
This, I can imagine there are some funny situations.
Yes.
About this. Okay. Usually, like I ask you as well, the last question is, if there's anything like a piece of advice that you want to share when somebody is thinking about, stretching out the boundaries and going to the boundaries. But I think you covered already everything. Maybe something is there anything happened in the last 2 to 3 weeks? We basically did not talk here, that you think, oh, that could be interesting to share here as well.
Anything interesting? Yeah, you're working on a project at the moment where, again, it's a Victorian building with absolutely huge garden and extension on the side. Currently, the extended bit is over 10 meters, and we are extending a little bit more, which will not affect the neighbors whatsoever. Okay. And very interesting thing on that, we find out the side boundary just goes along, but right at the end, it just takes off into somebody else's garage. So literally, physically in somebody else's garage, about 1.5 meters, and the red line boundary which just goes in. So it just does that, and I'm like, what is this? So creatively, we are just using that space for providing ensuite for one of the bit what we are doing over there. But it's very, very unusual to spot something where you have a straight side boundary, but literally 1.5 meters is being carved into your neighbors. Yeah. So historically, there must be some sort of an agreement with the neighbor to use that space for something, for cold storage or whatever, and it was legally done. Hence the reason, it does shift. But now my client can possibly, use that space for a better reason than just a store.
This is fascinating. Like,
It,
and then
it
when
is.
you
It
dig
is.
into the history, then it's even more like, yeah,
Yeah. So
cool.
I spoke to the client saying, look, if that space, it was so narrow and things, I said, I offered it to them. I said, look, if we can't use it for anything else, you might just knock your neighbor and say, look, do you want the space back because we can't use it? But in our proposal, what we realized that we can actually use that space wisely. So if it's here, it's yours, use it. Yeah. So yeah,
Cool.
that's an interesting one.
Very interesting. Cool. Well, I would say this are all questions I have at the moment in mind about the when it comes to boundaries. And we have an article about this written as well on the website. The link will be below. So check it out and read more about the boundaries. And if you have any questions, please book a call with Vishal. He already, presented it to you and asked you to do that. So, and next week we are coming with another good topic. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to write us in the comments or to send us an email with your questions, that we cover all the questions next week. Talk to you
Brilliant.
soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.